All right. Yeah. Breaking news. Not really breaking per se. Look, I wasn't anticipating doing a BRAP rant. Well, I was, but maybe this weekend. But I wasn't anticipating doing a rant not even 24 hours after we just wrapped up last night's podcast. So going to do a quick 30-minute rant here about some developments as it relates to the Activision or Microsoft acquisition of Activision. The CMA, which is the UK regulatory body, is recommend the second phase of investigation here. The Competition and Markets Authority has decided that Microsoft's record-breaking acquisition of Activision Blizzard may affect competition within the UK. The Phase 1 ruling issued September 1st said that the merger may be expected to result in substantial lessening of competition within a market or markets in the United Kingdom. Tom Warren, this is actually for you, buddy. No, they're not trying to protect Sony's number one positioning in the world or whatever crazy S you said. Oh, man, I tell you. We'll talk about that in a second. Let's see here. As the result, the deal is expected to be referred for an in-depth Phase 2 investigation unless both Microsoft and Activision offer acceptable undertakings to address these competition concerns. The UK regulator gathered thousands of internal documents and data from both parties to understand its businesses and conduct that completion of the merger and conclude that the completion of the merger could affect competition in two ways. They're saying, here are the two ways that the regulatory body saying that this could impact competition. One, deal could see Microsoft withholding or degrading Activision Blizzard's content from other consoles or subscription service. Microsoft has doubled down already and said, no, hey, we're not doing that. We're not pulling Call of Duty from any competitors' platforms. They doubled down on that again. But Microsoft's already confirmed that that other Blizzard games, Activision Blizzard games, will be in Game Pass, Diablo, Overwatch, and the like. So the other point that was raised was Microsoft could leverage its broader ecosystem together with Activision's catalog to raise barriers to entry and foreclose rivals in cloud gaming service. Logic, I think that's something you mentioned too, as we were kind of discussing behind the scenes, which is why I wanted to have you join the show, kind of fleshed it out a little bit, because I'm seeing some people run wild and saying crazy shit like the regulatory agency, there's nothing to fear here. They're just making this stuff up. Call of Duty's still going to be on the PlayStation, so what's the big deal? So we'll address some of those things too. The rule also highlights that Microsoft having control of franchises as Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Candy Crush may result in the firm harming consumers by impairing Sony's, Microsoft's closer rival, ability to compete, as well as others, and this is why I call it Tom Warren, as well as other existing and potential future rivals, and could bring healthy competition to the gaming market. So that's the other thing that people don't realize. It's not about the competition that's in the space today. Does this prevent for competition in the future? Does this hinder others that are trying to get into the space? Does it hurt the ability to get in their foot in the door, compete in that space? So that's let's see here. I just want to make sure I missed anything else. Okay, so Microsoft and Activision Blizzard have till September 8th to offer an undertaking to the CMA that proves the deal won't result in a substantial lessening of competition. By the way, I'm reading this off Game Industry, GameIndustry.biz. I recommend, if you're not visiting that website frequently for industry news, I highly recommend it. It's actually one of the better gaming industry websites, and definitely check it out. If substantial evidence is not provided or the undertaking is not accepted by the CMA, an investigation will move into Phase 2. Microsoft President Vice Chair Brad Smith responded to the CMA's decision and said, "We're ready to work with the CMA on next steps and address any of its concerns." I'm not surprised. Nobody should be surprised by that response. Sony, as the industry leader, says worried about Call of Duty, but we've said we are committed to making the same game available on the same day on both Xbox and PlayStation. We want people to have more access to games, not less. And I think Microsoft needs to further. I read on Twitter today that Microsoft actually further doubled down that, saying they will get the same version of Call of Duty day and date as the Xbox. So, that's going to be interesting. I'm sure that's going to create or generate some conversation of what that exactly means. because maybe you could argue that if the Xbox is getting DLC content or mats that aren't on the launch version of PlayStation that clearly favors the Xbox platform, then that's not entirely the same per se. But in the U.S., the acquisition is already into phase 2 by the FTC. And that could extend to 2023. So Activision Blizzard, a quick update, shared a letter sent to all employees by CEO Bobby Kotick. Commenting on today's decision, Kotick said the company still expects the deal to go through by the end of Microsoft fiscal year, June 30th, 2023, adding that the acquisition has already received approvals from a couple countries, and the process with other regulators is generally moving along as we expected. All right, so that's kind of the update here with this news. Of course, some of the knee-jerk reactions that I've seen are just, leave me scratching my head, but this is certainly part of the regulatory process. And I think, Logic, to your point, as people were complaining, and look, again, I'm not. You can have an issue with the price increase of that PlayStation just instituted in Europe and other parts of the world. That's fine. If you feel like you don't want to pay that price, whatever, that's fine. But I think when the conversation turns to anti-consumer practices, predatory, price increases, whatever the case is, as you mentioned before, Game Logic, these are the things that we have in place to prevent anti-consumer practices, and this is just part of that regulatory process, or this regulatory body that's in place to scrutinize these things and make sure that it, in fact, doesn't hurt the market or consumers. So that's my quick spiel. What are your thoughts, Logic?
They kind of run the gamut. I think, one of the things I think that leaps foremost to my mind is, I think what we've been trying to communicate and convey to everyone is that many times, these muscle movements are made by Microsoft and Sony, and there is a rush to, pom-pom them or indict them for the singular action. And I think what might be a more effective way to look at it, and to consider it is holistically, and kind of look at this as kind of an orchestra when you see the number of movements that are being made. Now, this isn't to construct a conspiracy theory kind of web of tapestry, on the corkboard, right, trying to solve the murder mystery. But it's definitely warranted, I think, to look at the interplay of dynamics. So Sony has just increased prices on the PlayStation 5 in the European Union and in the UK. That is something that will be looked at in conjunction with the consideration of the type of power that Microsoft can leverage in different markets against what is seen as their primary competitor, which is Sony. So that's going to be something that is going to weigh in the mind as they're taking these things into consideration. I think another thing that I saw somebody mention in chat is very valid. At the end of the day, I don't know that the gaming industry itself is the most important concern that the UK and the European Union will have while weighing these matters. But they will also have a heavy consideration about how this plays into cloud. And that can be both a pro and a minus. Microsoft provides a great deal of, simply enterprise products to government agencies and the government fabric of the UK. But they also provide a significant amount of what I will call capability to the UK government. And they are a government contractor within the UK government, just as they are a government contractor in the US government. And so some of those things will be weighed, again, both as a pro and a con. When you consider, again, that this has a play in mobile, and you consider the fact that then puts Microsoft-owned applications on mobile devices of both domestic and foreign citizens within the geopolitical boundaries of these countries. And one of the key things about a mobile device is the amount of telemetry that you get off of a mobile device and the activities of people carrying those mobile devices, including their location and who they're intercommunicating with, and how that can play into geopolitical events. That will be something that's weighed in consideration. But just as somebody mentioned, right, one of the things that'll be considered will be, not just how can Microsoft utilize all of the studios that it already has under its umbrella, in conjunction with the addition of more studios that it would get under Activision, but then how can it leverage its strengths in market adjacencies to the gaming industry in ways that could blunt innovation and competition will be some of the things that'll be considered.
So, Logic, when you say blunting innovation, like what are you referring to specifically? Because I'm sure that's probably a question that maybe the listeners or those listening later on might have. Like how would this maybe blunt innovation?
Yeah, well, a couple of things I think will be something that the committees will look at, right? That the commissions will look at. One thing will be, as I posted on Twitter a few weeks ago, which you may no longer be able to find because I did deactivate my Twitter account today. So in 34 days,
come back to us, Game Logic.
Yeah,
hey, don't let those heathens, push you off the platform, because that's what they want, man. You are. Don't give them that power.
But the 65% of the revenue in the gaming industry is earned by like something like 10, 12, 13 companies, right? So it's a very small amount. And when you look at the movements that are being made by Tencent and NetEase and Embracer Group, although for Embracer Group that doesn't yet today yield a large portion of market cap. It's still significant just in the raw number of the studios that they are acquiring. And more so in terms of NetEase and Tencent. And so, you're going to push again yet another point of consolidation here. And if you assume all things remain linear, you look at the earnings of the Xbox division in combination with the earnings of Activision, and now all of a sudden you have a competitor that jumps right to the number 2 position in terms of gaming market revenue, right underneath Tencent. When you look at some of the other dynamics in the gaming industry, like I always forget the name of this game because I haven't actually played it, but I think I can't remember if it was. It wasn't Hyperspace. I thought it was Hyper something, but there was a first-person shooter that came to kind of notoriety this year.
I'm sorry, Game Lot. Can I address something real quick?
Yeah.
Because this is hilarious. Like I'm about to laugh. Look, True Virgil says, "What wall? Y'all will say anything to stop Microsoft from gaining the community's mindset. Phil is on you, BRAP. I don't know if you're trying to be funny, True, but it was kind of funny that you said that." No, it's not that deep, man. It really isn't. The point of the title was to drive engagement. The meat of the show is what we're doing right now, having dialogue about this news. So, yeah.
Hey, and Virgil, if you're living in fear, I've tried my best to allay that. I've closed my Twitter account. My name tag is my real name now. It is no longer Game Logic, so you don't even have to worry about me showing up in the podcast with a name badge that has anything to do with gaming in it. So if there's really a fear that things that I'm saying or things that we're saying will somehow prevent the gaming community, gaining any traction, underneath Microsoft's sway. I've done my best to kind of alleviate those concerns.
Yeah, I do think he's trolling though. He's saying apologize to Phil. He might be trolling, but you never know.
Right. Hey, thanks a lot, homie Juan. That was the game Hyperscape. So Hyperscape was a game that gained notoriety. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was basically a university level project that started, and then the person took it and made it an entrepreneurial venture, and then gained additional cash infusion from venture capital. And so the game became a significant thing on the marketplace, right? When you consider combining the financial strength of Microsoft and Activision, and the fact that if you look at revenue amongst first-person shooters, competitive first-person shooters, I know Tom Warren tried to make an insinuation that Counter-Strike Go is big and Apex is big, but again, when you look at total revenue, right, and consider that that's a finite resource that can be consumed, in that a lot of that's going to be consolidated around the biggest players.
And I'm sorry, let me interrupt you. Again, I am really, that was very trivial for him to even say that. Like, I'm like, dude, like they're not even on the same field. Like look at the impact of Call of Duty on the industry versus those games. And not to say those games aren't popular, but no, it's not an apples to apples. Like, why even go there? I don't know.
Right.
Go ahead.
I mean, today Call of Duty sells as a single unit sale, right? That's not a free to play game. That is not a game that sells below the $60 or $70 mark. You have to onboard with it by paying full price, and then you have to pay for ensuing seasons, right, for the battle pass. And then it also generates the additional revenue through microtransactions. So just say, right, as a flat linear, like very low level, like basic comparison, let's assume, kind of wildly, that that Call of Duty generates the same amount of microtransactions revenue as Counter-Strike Go and Apex generate, right, in total. At a minimum, you have to add to that, right, the onboarding price of the $60 or $70 to get in the door. So it seems kind of patently obvious that it's most likely that Call of Duty, and that's for Call of Duty, right? Now, so Call of Duty, the paid version of Call of Duty, typically ranks almost every single year as the #1 revenue gaining title, right, across the entire gaming industry. Admittedly, another competitor that's very close to that is Nintendo, typically Mario Kart, and admittedly Nintendo doesn't report its digital transactions, right? So it's feasible that Mario Kart actually sells more total units than Call of Duty. But regardless, right, Call of Duty is up there. And so that in and of itself sucks up a great amount of the revenue across the entire gaming industry. And then you add to that the same microtransactions, right, that you might have with Apex and Counter-Strike Go. So my point is that, then when you add to that things like, right, over time, what I would expect, we talked a little bit about net profit margin yesterday and about the amount of money, the number of dollars it takes to generate a number of dollars in profit, right? I would expect over time that what will happen is Call of Duty, which today, as far as I understand, runs on top of AWS servers. So here comes the cloud component that will be taken into consideration, right, for lots of countries who are looking very heavily at cloud and its distribution, and how on the cloud space, smaller vendors are being kept out, right, by Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, right? So I would expect
this is very applicable to kind of what you were. I think I know where you're going with this. Like, basically, you talked about this. We've talked about this on BRAP, where Microsoft is leveraging Azure as a platform for companies in the gaming industry.
Right.
Right. And so if they get a let's say a stranglehold on that locks out the other players that are offering cloud right now too, Amazon, Google, and the like. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
Yeah. And so I would expect that over time, right, all of those Call of Duty servers, all of that infrastructure, right, is going to migrate to Azure. So that pulls in a certain amount of business from Amazon, and that reduces the total cost, right, apparent cost to the Activision business unit of running those servers and that games as a service. That then gives them additional resources that can be employed in different ways, right? They're not paying that money as an internal transactional cost, really, at least not certainly at the same levels that they would have in terms of paying that service fee, that enterprise level service fee to Amazon. And so what that does is it potentially creates a landscape where something like Hyperscape, doesn't necessarily, come to being, because there are now additional resources, right? In terms of all the resources that are already going to Call of Duty, it creates the possibility that there could be even additional resources, right, made to create additional, spokes of Call of Duty, or additional service levels of Call of Duty, or additional manners, product differentiation, different, not necessarily SKUs, but variants, right, modes, spinoffs, whatever, that could consume, again, the finite amount of revenue that there is to peanut butter around. A key thing that you mentioned right now, and I definitely want to point out, right, because I know that the leap that people are going to make is, well, nobody says Microsoft will do that. That's not a certainty to happen. That's unlikely to happen. Again, what these commissions are looking at, right, is not that it will happen, but that it presents the risk and the danger. And if they consider that risk and the danger is too much, then that's the point where they won't approve it. They're not looking necessarily for how probable it is. They're not necessarily looking for malicious intent.
Yeah.
They're not even necessarily looking for past goodwill that has been shown, although that will be taken into consideration. Does it present the threat? Now, one key indicator of how seriously is Microsoft taking this, I've mentioned before, Brad Smith. Brad Smith is the person that they mobilize, who, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he's head of the legal unit at Microsoft.
Yes.
He is the person that they mobilize to put these blog posts up to assuage the fears and concerns of government regulatory agencies. And so if he has written a blog post, that means that Microsoft is looking at this as, this is no ish, right? This is something to be taken seriously.
No, they're not taking this lightly at all. I mean,
right.
Right. Yeah, because what they don't want to happen is a regulatory body coming to them and saying, wait a minute, we're going to approve this deal, but not as you initially presented the deal as. You're going to need to spin certain things off, and certainly Microsoft wouldn't want that. But go ahead, Logic.
Right, and that's a key part of the language, right, in the article in the CMA's ruling. So the CMA's ruling, and I looked at the same article because, GameIndustry.biz is just a much more credible journalistic outlet than.
By the way, I really encourage anyone to. They're the Ruth's Chris of game journalism right now. I don't know if that resonates with anyone, but just Google Ruth Chris. Everyone else is McDonald's, but Bratz and Tom Warner is Taco Bell diarrhea. But
right. So that paragraph that you read, right, in quoting from the article, I just had it. Dad nabbit. From here, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard have until September 8th. It's 1 week. To offer an undertaking to the CMA that proves the deal won't result in a substantial lessening of competition. If substantial evidence is not provided or the undertaking is not accepted by the CMA, the investigation will move into phase 2. So the key thing I want to call out here is the separation between evidence and undertaking. Because I'm absolutely certain the thought that's getting momentum is that this is just a paperwork drill. And Microsoft just needs to show up with some more clever writing that establishes that this isn't really a concern. But if you start digging through the regulatory guidance for the CMA and the role that it plays under the Secretary of State in the UK, I think for Commerce, an undertaking is a reference to an actual effort. So this is the thing that points to the thing that I've been mentioning before, which is that some of these regulatory bodies may ask Microsoft to restructure the deal for its merger and acquisition with Activision. And that's what an undertaking is. An undertaking is not simply providing evidence. An undertaking is, what things are you going to change in the structure of the deal, possibly? That's one venue that they could go down. That's one vector they could go down, right? To assuage our fears and concerns that this will result in potential anti-competitive behavior. So this is Microsoft's, this is the first stick that's being laid down that is a direct ask to Microsoft to say, do you want to maybe reconsider restructuring of this deal and how you're passing it to us for approval? That may be something that we take into consideration, right? To take this, current obstruction and impediment to going through with it off the table.
Yeah, no, that's actually a great point. And again, I think one that's probably going to come up, as the FTC kind of moves them along the process. We've seen this at least here in the U.S. With some other recent M&As with Disney, where they had to spin off certain aspects of Fox. I think ESPN,
the NBC, the Comcast NBC Universal merger.
NBC, yep, Comcast NBC too. So yeah, again, it wouldn't surprise me if parts of this deal were spun off. Again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. Because I know someone's gonna be like, "Oh, BRAP, you just said no." It just wouldn't surprise me if that happened. Because look, at least here in the U.S., and we talked about this a lot on this show, it's kind of hunting season for tech companies right now. Timing here is kind of interesting because these tech companies are really under the microscope here in the U.S. I don't know what the situation is in the U.K. If it's my understanding and talking to when we had Hogue Law on about when the acquisition first happened, he said that the European Union is a little more they're a little more conservative as it relates to mergers acquisitions. The U.S. is a little more liberal in that regard, but so we'll see how this plays out. in the UK. So, anything else stick out to you, Logic? Anything of interest with what was reported on today?
No, those were the big ones. I will admit, I often accuse people who try to paint other pictures or narratives about like jumping on singular aspects of this. But I will readily admit that I was knocked off my stool by the two things that leaped out at me and became too hyper focused on those to really consider it all the way around. The big thing was that second bullet: Microsoft could leverage its broader ecosystem together with Activision's catalog to raise barriers to entry and foreclose rivals in cloud gaming service. Like the fact that the CMA specifically noted cloud gaming, right? That to me is huge. And you consider the fact that just over the last few months they were called on the carpet to testify. I can't remember if it was in the UK or the EU about whether or not they were exhibiting anti-competitive behavior in their effort to keep out smaller cloud vendors. By like bundling services with their enterprise products.
That was in the
services.
That was in the EU. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So again, recency bias is a thing, right? When these things go down and like you just recently kind of got your hand caught in the cookie jar, or appearing to be in the cookie jar, right? That's a thing that's going to stick in people's minds. So that one and the undertaking were the two things. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say something. Again, I'm kind of thinking about this conversation we've been having about, quote unquote, the boogeyman and as it relates to corporations preying on helpless consumers. I mean, we talked about the free market here on the show, and that they are laws, regulatory bodies in place to help protect consumers. We're seeing that play out right now. And some of the commentary that I'm seeing is counterintuitive to some of the things that people have been arguing about as relates to the way some corporations raise prices in the industry. I find that kind of interesting. I kind of laugh too, because like, you guys, the thing that you're fighting against is a thing you should be championing, because it's a thing that's going to protect you potentially against a thing that you're out here shouting at the ether to or about as it relates to price increases and things like that. So,
right now, the thing that will go in their favor, right, is the fact that their gaming division has trailed Sony's gaming division in revenue, right?
That's true, yes.
And so, there are things that you look at from a competitive, from a trying to assess the competitiveness of the market between Microsoft and Sony, and there are there's pros and cons. This is definitely not I'm commenting on the things that I'm seeing in the article, and I admitted that some things jumped out at me that will definitely cause me to comment that may make it sound like I'm saying that Microsoft is going to lose this battle. I'm not.
No,
there
are
other things that are going to be
taken. At all. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be interesting. For me personally, as somebody who studies the gaming industry and the evolution of the art and gaming design and its societal impacts, this is super interesting to me, because anytime there's large colossal changes going down, like you just said, it's fascinating to watch.
It really is,
and kind of break out the popcorn. For me as a personal consumer, I would say, if I had to have a vote, it's not really me as a consumer, it's also me as a student of the industry, right? I actually kind of would be interested to see the merger go down, right? In some extent, however it goes down, because it would be an evolutionary change to the industry. And I'm never a fan of just seeing the industry plot along, right, in the same structure that it has been for the last 50 years or so. So it'll be interesting to see how it comes out.
Yeah, I think if BRAP as a consumer, I'm kind of like, hey, if the deal happens, I'm okay with it, because I actually will use Game Pass now. And there's a lot of there's stuff in that Activision portfolio that I'm actually that I would actually play. I mean, I'm not really using Game Pass right now. Again, it's not a knock against Game Pass. I know what some of you people are going to say, but Game Pass really just hasn't presented that value to me that I thought it would when I initially signed up, and that is big AAA games. The indie stuff's great. Some of the back catalog stuff, like when Dragon Quest XI came out, that was great. But I'm not really playing a lot of those games. I have a Fortnite addiction. I've talked about this. If there's games like Fortnite that I'm engaged in, unless it's a AAA, what we call banger, I'm really not going to pay much attention to Game Pass, and this deal would probably alleviate that for me. So as a consumer, I would be okay with it. You know, it for me, it builds more value into Game Pass, where I would actually use Game Pass. I would definitely play Call of Duty on Xbox now, or on PC actually, because if it's going to be on PC Game Pass, I'm definitely playing it on PC. Like, why wouldn't you pay the definitive version of a game on PC? I'm just saying, right? Logic. Like, why wouldn't you?
Right. And that being said, again, that's all of it. You know, that's assuming that it does go to Game Pass, right? Because that could definitely be a restriction, right? That was put on the whole deal, right? That Call of Duty.
That would be interesting if that happened, right?
Yeah. All sorts of things go in there, and the other reason I would like it is because, you know, admittedly, it would force Sony, right, to take action, right, to do something, right. It would be a competitive threat to Sony.
Oh, absolutely.
It would change the landscape of the market. It would change the distribution of revenue, and they would have to do something. I have never been a proponent or a fan or overly encouraged by the Jim Ryan, you know, we believe in generations. We're going to keep doing what we've been doing. It's a proven formula. We're not going to change anything. Again, as a person who studies, you know, not just this industry, but lots of other industries and participates in the tech industry, that has just always resonated with me as the textbook examples of all the case studies that I had to study in school, right? Of all of the businesses that went out of business, right? Just sounded textbook like Wang, sounded textbook like IBM, sounded textbook like RIM.
Xerox.
Right? These large colossal organizations that didn't pivot right in time. And I'm not saying that Sony needs to pivot and they need to do something radically different. But like I talked about like a couple of weeks ago when I asked the question, right, has Sony had a big idea, right, that they've capitalized on through perfective innovation? And I don't know that they have.
No, they haven't. No, they definitely haven't. Like we talked about that like 2 weeks ago. They definitely haven't. But I do think that Sony, I mean, obviously, look, I think they're obviously. I would hope they're aware, but I do think they are, given some of the moves they've made recently, with, you know, the acquisitions, the investment in live service games, you know, pivoting or you know, merging PlayStation Now and PlayStation Plus together. You know, now there's the acquisition. They're kind of doubling down on mobile. Mobile's not necessarily new to them, but now they're kind of doubling down on that. So I mean, if I'm just, you know, in my opinion, just based on those moves alone, I think they get it. I think Jim Ryan saying, "Hey, we believe in generation." I think that's, you know, like marketing talk. Like he needs to sell PlayStations. He needs to pander to his base the way. I'm not going to get into politics, so never mind. But,
hey man, really good talk. I got to bounce, unfortunately. So it's good seeing you and good seeing the chat.
Yep. Thanks, Game Logic, man. Talk to you soon. All right, so don't want to thank Game Logic again. He did have to drop, but I'm going to wrap up this BRAP rant here in a second. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. What's up, Slobo? It's going to be interesting. And Slobo, I don't know if you're around, man. I don't know if you want to hop in and talk about Halo Infinite, but we got some Halo Infinite news. So if Slobo wants to jump in, I will certainly talk about that. But, you know, Game Logic brought up a great point. If this deal evolves into maybe a situation where it can't be in Game Pass. But, you know, I don't know. I mean, again, it's hard for me to say. Okay, no worries, Slobo. It's hard for me to say without really knowing. But again, like Logic said, like it's not necessarily if something will happen. It's the possibility that it could happen, and maybe that is something that comes out of this, where they say, you know what, you, as part of the agreement of approval of the merger acquisition, you can't put this game into Game Pass because it creates an unfair advantage. Although I don't think it creates a necessarily unfair advantage, or at least today. Maybe it does in the future. Maybe if, you know, if Microsoft acquires additional, you know, publishers, maybe it could. But I just want to say something. We have a gentleman here who I find, I don't know, pleasing to the eye. We have Worry Word. What's up, Worry?
Hello. How are you?
I just want to say one thing, sir. Conjecture.
Conjecture. Everything's conjecture.
Yeah, everything is conjecture. And Amico
co-op in Halo is conjecture.
Oh man. Worry, thanks for hopping on, man. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, so I don't know how much you heard of our conversation with Game Logic about what's going on in the UK with the CMA. But did you have any thoughts on this, man?
I don't. I think it's going to go through, but
I do too.
For me, it's more of a question of, you know, when I looked at the Halo announcement today, right? I tend to base all of my purchase decisions based on selfish things, like what can I get, right? Everybody does. I want the things that I enjoy. And when I read the rationale for canceling the co-op, it was about accelerating live services. So the problem I have is this hyper focus that Microsoft seems to have on this one particular strategy. And that's fine. But when I start to see it affect other areas, for instance, things that I want, like really good narrative, characters, and stories, and when those get affected, that's when I have a problem. And I think we're starting to see that. It's fine if you want to hyper focus in on things that make you money, but you have to have, a well-rounded portfolio for people. And conversely, you can say, well, Sony only focuses in on single player narrative-driven experiences. Well, they do those really well, and they're doing other things too. They're going to do other things. But I haven't seen that effect on a huge IP like Halo. If this happens to Halo, why should I be excited for Perfect Dark? Why should I be excited for Starfield? Why should I be excited for Fable? How do I know those aren't going to be just these watered down single player experiences that lead into live service? You can kind of play it by yourself, but it's really meant for multiple people, like Redfall. So that's the problem I personally have when I see this hyper focus on live service and the way it's degrading great franchises like Halo. And I don't think that anybody could argue that it isn't doing that at this point.
Yeah, I certainly understand your point. Where I mean, you and I go back many years with the Halo franchise. I mean, we remember all of its glory, right? It having great campaign, great.
It was all about. It's one of the biggest. It's probably as huge. It could be as huge as the Star Wars universe. It is huge. The narrative, the lore, the characters, the spin-offs, everything that could be being done has been sort of whittled down to this barren open world and cutting things out because we want to accelerate live service. And, I get it. It's fine, I guess, if you're into that. But you have to give, I guess, your base or people who lived for that franchise, right? The lore and the story. You can't, I guess an example would be, do you think that Nintendo would do something like this to Zelda?
No.
Or to Mario?
No.
Do you think that, PlayStation would do something like this to The Last of Us? Or to an Uncharted, or to Spider-Man, or to Ghost of Tsushima? They wouldn't do it.
No, they wouldn't.
They would do something else, make a live service game, that's fine. But this hyper-focused in on changing everything into a live service is the problem that I have. Now, I could be wrong, but I personally am seeing it degrade IPs when it comes to Xbox. And Halo is their biggest IP. And for me personally, if it's happening here with Halo, right, why should I be super excited about them purchasing things? Because it doesn't help me. Why should I be super excited about Redfall that you quote unquote can play by yourself, but it's kind of meant for, other players to play too? Why should I be excited again for Fable? How do I know Fable isn't going to be this, kind of single player MMO type game to force everybody together into a live service? How do I know that? I'm only looking at Halo and what's happening with that. Yeah. So it does bother me.
Worry. I understand your points, man. Like it is, because I have kind of a similar thought process here. That for me, it's hard. And look, they've made some great acquisitions, and there's some talented studios. I don't have any concern with what's it? Oh my God, with I'm getting old now. Where I can't remember the name of. Some of the developers that they've acquired. I don't have any concern with Double Fine.
Like Ninja Theory,
Double Fine, Tim Schafer's group. I thought Psychonauts 2 was a great game. The problem with Psychonauts 2 though is that I just don't feel like people are going to play that game if it's curated in a service like Game Pass. It's just going to get buried, I think.
Right.
And
that's another problem that I have. And I mean, again, these are all me problems. I know you got people who listen who go crazy because they love Xbox and all this bullshit, but
I love Amico.
For me, I do too. I have the games, quote unquote, physical games. They're actually licensing those games now for other platforms.
I have the controller. I didn't know that. Well, it makes sense, right? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to try and put those games on the Switch. And
Switch, yeah.
You got to buy them digitally. So, yeah. But for me, it's like, Microsoft, and we're being freed from the console finally, right? We're all free. We're all free. We're not tied to the box anymore. Isn't it wonderful what Microsoft is doing for everybody, right? The problem I have is it's like saying, here's this parking lot full of cars, all different kinds of cars, right? Me and you, Brad, we can go play in any car we want. But there's one key for every car, and it belongs to Microsoft. It belongs to the OS. It belongs to Game Pass. It belongs to xCloud. So we're replacing the, lock to a box mentality to a lock to an OS mentality. So I don't see the distinction. So I need content. And I need content that's good.
I don't disagree with you, Worry. Like, I mean, look, I understand Microsoft is trying to mimic the success of their Azure, Windows, Office business,
if you can call that successful,
and that's the Azure.
I'm not a Windows fan, that.
Yeah, no, I know you Apple guy, I know. But no, I mean, like Azure in Office has been very successful to try to mimic that with Game Pass and
look, they're supposed to do this stuff. I get it.
Yeah, but
they're supposed to do it.
But I do understand your sentiment here, like because I feel this way, like. Obviously, like I'm not saying this applies to all of their studios. Like, Bethesda, ZeniMax, I interviewed there last year, and when I was interviewing there, I was like, "Hey, one of my concerns is the M&A. How's it going to impact company culture?" And they're like, "Yeah, nothing's going to change. We're going to basically run our own ship and do what we're continuing to do." Which I'm okay with that. It's great. We talked about Double Fine, Ninja Theory. I don't have any concerns there. Playground, don't have any concerns. Obsidian, don't have any concerns. But there's some other studios there, like we remember the Quadruple A studio, the Initiative. They've had some issues.
Let me just point out where you don't have any concern, right? You don't have any concern about the studios you just mentioned, right?
Yeah.
The only reason I am starting to have concern is because the biggest IP that they have is in the toilet. Because of a hyper focus on live service.
I get that.
So
yeah.
While I'm super excited, I think for me personally, the best acquisition they made was Ninja Theory, because Ninja Theory knows how to craft an amazing story, knows how to create great characters and worlds. They know how to do it. Enslaved Odyssey to the West is criminally underrated. A fantastic game. The problem is, are they going to be allowed to do that? I know we hear that they are, but there is a huge, huge focus on, they say it themselves when it comes to Halo, the largest IP they have, accelerating live service. So we're cutting out things that make the core experience just that much more impactful to the old audience. Why would you do that? I don't understand it. And if it's happening with Halo, and these are all my opinions, if it's happening with Halo, my excitement for everything else is starting to become tarnished.
So, Worry, I just want to say something. One thing I really appreciate about you is that when you bring up these points, you say it's my opinion. There's a lot of YouTubers out there. There's a lot of YouTubers out there that present their opinion as it's fact, this is actually happening. And it's like,
well, that's another topic altogether. It's social media and the idea of being able to profit by being an influencer has destroyed gaming. That's, again, my opinion, right?
I don't think it's contributed to a healthy discourse at all.
It hasn't at all.
I don't think it has, man.
There's no information that's accurately given to anybody really anymore, unless you're, if you're calling yourself I love Xbox forever and you have a channel, I don't think that you're going to be giving out the best information when it comes to what's actually happening behind the scenes, or PlayStation is life.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, right? No, I don't disagree with you, Worry. I don't disagree with you. And with Halo, for me, to see Halo Infinite again, we go back.
Go ahead. Take your ginkgo biloba for your memory.
No, hold on. I'm just reading a chat here. Someone says, Microsoft supports creative freedom. I mean, we're not talking about Microsoft support.
Well, how do we know that? How do we know that? Again, it's a slogan. It's a company slogan that's being regurgitated. They support total freedom. Well, how come Halo Infinite is in the state that it's in?
Yeah, and so here's my thing. Like when we talk about concerns in pipeline management, because look,
you said pipeline, by the way.
Yeah, I did say pipeline. But GK and no, I thank you for the comment. I understand what you're saying. You're saying, that they support creative freedom because, Ninja Theory is making 3 IPs, including an IP that affects mental health improvement. I understand that. But my point, that doesn't take away from the fact that there is a pipeline issue here in terms of managing their software output, where we had acquisitions announced 5 years ago. We still don't have, and please don't. I know someone's going to bring up Flight Simulator. I'm okay, whatever. I'll give you that. I'll give you Flight Simulator. We still haven't seen a AAA current gen only title from them that really screams 12 teraflop monster. This thing eats monsters for breakfast. I mean, that was Microsoft's own marketing, and I understand they need to market power. But they created this incredible piece of hardware, because look, the Xbox Series X is a nice piece of hardware, but we haven't seen anything that says this is why you should own an Xbox Series X.
I'll go one better for you.
Yeah.
Why do we move from one generation to the next when it comes to a console? Like, why am I moving from the Xbox One X to the Xbox Series X? What IP did they create that carries forward to a new generation? And what IP did they create that carries an audience forward to a new generation? So, for instance, on the PlayStation 3, Uncharted's created, correct?
Yeah.
That audience carried forward to the PlayStation 4 for that IP. On the PlayStation 4, you've got Horizon Zero Dawn created. You've got Ghost of Tsushima created, correct? Mm-hmm. Most people are going to carry forward to the PlayStation 5 for the successors to those franchises. Microsoft, on the other hand, has not created a new franchise in a long time. Sea of Thieves is it. And it's not a game that you move from platform to platform for. So, again, the hyper-focus in on consoles are going away. Well, I don't think they're going away. And just because Microsoft
Phil Spencer said as much, they're not going away either, though, by the way, which is interesting, yeah.
So for me, and again, this is a me problem, but I don't think that it's beyond the scope of relevance for somebody to say, I buy consoles to play great single-player games. And a manufacturer should supply those, as well as the people who like multiplayer, as well as the people like you who like to run around in Fortnite and shoot each other for some reason. I don't know why you like that game, but okay.
I like to cosplay.
I know you do. I heard you're a furry.
What?
A furry?
Oh,
you know what a furry is?
No, I don't. I don't want to
found
know
out what a furry is. A furry is people who dress up in like bear costumes or cat costumes or just animal costumes, like furry costumes. I swear to you, it's like a subculture.
I don't doubt you, but yeah. The Halo Infinite thing's interesting because we know about the development.
I just want a good game. I want a new IP
no, me too.
From Microsoft that is completely undeniably next gen. I want something like, for instance, if Naughty Dog's next game comes out, right, which is Hellblade 2, right? Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Naughty Dog, Ninja Theory.
Ninja Theory, yeah.
Now, if that game, and I'm not saying that it's not, but can you imagine, like, if their next game doesn't look as good as like a Sony cross-gen first-party game that's single player? It can't exist. It has to start evolving. We need something new. Yeah, that's why when I see this hyper focus in on the reason why Halo is in the state that it's in with co-op is because we want to accelerate live service. I don't care about live service. If many other people do, great. I hope they get what they want. But I would like the things that I've had in the past, like Halo, to not be degraded because of this hyper focus. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, the Halo, if 20 years ago, Worry, if I would have gone back in time and I would have rolled up to you in a DeLorean, opened the door and said, hey, Worry, Halo Infinite or Halo in 20 years is going to have development trouble. It's going to be delayed a year. It's going to be missing features. You would have looked at me and said what?
It won't have a compelling story anymore.
Yeah.
It won't have a compelling universe. It won't lean on its lore and expand. I would say you're crazy.
Yeah.
There's no way. It'd be like telling me right now that Legend of Zelda 20 years from now is going to be this watered down live service game without Link, right? Zelda doesn't exist anymore, and it's just an MMO where people create their own Zeldas and create their own Links.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
So here's the thing. I want to address GKN Co. He says, "Brap, dude, I follow the stuff. Yeah, okay. We all follow that here too on the panel. I understand Ninja Theory. Their mocap investments. They actually that's actually one of the reasons why Microsoft picked them up. But but here's the thing. It's this thing of the great games are coming. They're coming. They're coming. Well, I mean, I shouldn't say that over and over again. But
I'm so slow. I didn't catch that, but now I got it.
Yeah. I was surprised you didn't catch that. But this is the issue I have with them as a consumer, that I've been waiting since the Xbox One X for them to create something. And look, as a consumer,
you can't really bring that up.
Like as a consumer, okay, yeah. So so Donnie D tanked the organization, whatever. Phil had Terry Myerson, the human wall. He didn't have the backing of that's not, you know what? That's not my problem as a consumer. That's a them problem. They need to figure that out.
I don't know why anybody would even want to know about any of that. Do you remember a time when, like, I didn't know who the executives were in charge of
I never knew.
Fucking Sega or Genesis or Master System, or like, why do we care about this stuff?
I didn't know. I didn't
just be about the excitement of the content that's coming out. It shouldn't be about driving your social media engagement or saying things that are positive for an audience that lives on social media. It should be about content across all spectrums, not just live service.
Yeah, I get it. But Warrior, I think that the live servicing with Halo Infinite, to me, it's not working right now for them. And look, as a fan, and I'm a big Halo fan, and the multiplayer is actually really good. The gameplay mechanics are really solid.
I hear you. I'm not that person.
Yeah, and I know you're not a multiplayer, and that's the only thing that saved that game for me, Warrior, was the multiplayer. The story was very, like, it felt very desolate to me. The world did. It felt empty, and I went in. I dived into Horizon Forbidden West.
I mean, I remember. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I dived into
Reach. I mean, when Reach came out,
oh my God, Reach was so good.
Yeah.
So there's
Horizon Forbidden West is a slow burn. It takes a while to get into that story. I know a lot of people say that they don't like the story, but you really, and again, it's probably a design problem. I get it, right? It shouldn't take as long as it does, but it does get very, very, very good.
Yeah, I just, again, I if it wasn't for the multiplayer, and this is where you and I are different, where, like, because I know you don't really play multiplayer, but if there wasn't multiplayer, the game would have been terrible for me. Multiplayer saved it, and so my focus now is I hope that and I'm excited for Forge. I hope they find their footing somewhere, and this game gets into a better place, because it's just, to me, an iconic franchise like Halo Infinite, to see that. I don't know.
It feels like it's just going to be like every other live service game. We're just going to have this catalog of games. Here's Call of Duty. Here's Activision games. And none of them have their own unique identity anymore. They're just a bunch of games in a service, and they all do the same thing. It's a me problem. I get it. If you're in love with Xbox and Game Pass and subscription services, wonderful. But personally, I don't want the content that I like being degraded. And I see that happening with a hyper focus on live service. And by the way, this could happen with PlayStation as well. If they start to degrade like if the next Last of Us is this, co-op romp fest that you can play with your friends, but it's kind of single player, I'll have the same problem. It doesn't mean that other people can't enjoy other types of games, but I'm not buying a box for what you like. I'm buying a box for what I like.
Yeah, no, and that's what we're supposed to do as consumers. I do think, though, there's a little bit of the I'm buying my box because of what everyone else likes.
That's social media,
and because I want to be part of that social media crowd, and I want to get my name shout out on podcasts. Look,
it's so bad. This is why I don't podcast. This is why I don't go into podcasts. I think it's probably my age, because it's probably something that's like super relevant right now for young people, and like really smart old people who know how to capitalize on young people's emotions and make money. I get that.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it. I don't know why anybody would want to hear somebody tell them the same thing over and over and over again when the evidence is right in front of you. You can literally search. Like, for instance, you were talking about why Sony raised the price of the PlayStation 5 in certain regions on your show.
Yeah.
Now, the evidence for that is called the internet, right? Anybody can go there. Anybody can pull it up. Or you can listen to somebody named, I'm in love with Phil Spencer 69 on Twitter. So which one would you rather do? I'm not saying it's great that they raised the price, but there's a real difference between the way that the yen is valued today versus the way it was just a year ago.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
Microsoft doesn't have to deal with that.
I tried explaining that, the fact that we mentioned on this show too that Sony was selling in these regions where they increased the price of the console. In fact they were selling those consoles cheaper than they were selling in the U.S. Like if you compare the exchange rate, and what they did was essentially bring it up to par with what the in terms of if you look at the exchange rate, they brought up to par with what the MSRP is for the PlayStation 5 in the U.S. and that's what they did. But you say that and people. I've heard people blurt out conspiracy theories like there's no chip shortages, that's a manufactured lie. I've heard people say that. Do
you remember back in the day? When people remember back in the day when people used to say, remember when there was like these manufactured shortages of consoles and they were just doing it to drive hype and excitement? Remember?
Yes.
When like the PlayStation 2.
Remember that? Yeah, I remember that.
Or the Nintendo.
The
NES. The NES was really available. They were just holding them in a warehouse somewhere to drive up hype and excitement.
I remember
that. It wasn't the case. It's just these themes that get repeated over and over and over again, and they're just highlighted now because of social media. And folks, Twitter is not the gaming community. Twitter is not the gaming community. The gaming community is so much bigger outside of social media that you're just really doing yourself a disservice by
I just want
a lot of your information there.
Yeah, no, that's the thing that I said last night. I'm like, it's mind blowing to me that we have this thing called Google.
You said blowing.
What the? Okay. We have this thing called Google blowing, and see what comes up. We have this thing called Google, and you can literally get all this information. You can actually understand how inflation works, how the exchange rates are impacted today, how manufacturing's gone up 30% in China, how there in fact is a chip shortage. Somebody tried to argue with me that Nintendo, that proof that Sony is evil and bad is because Nintendo didn't raise the price of the Switch, and because they're in Japan too, that they're also impacted the same way as Sony. I'm like, no, that is not true. Do your research. Understand that Nintendo hardware is a generation behind, hence those parts are cheaper and less in demand.
And they're always a generation behind, and that's their strategy. That is their strategy. They're delivering games that look like they shouldn't run on a Switch, right? Like Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It has its issues in terms of resolution and frame rate here and there, but it is miraculous that that's running on the Switch. But it costs them so much less to develop and produce a Switch. It costs them so much less to ship the Switch.
So here's I'm kind of going back and forth with GK and Co. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his handle correctly, but he's saying it's important to monitor internal company policies because they impact you as a consumer. Honestly, I don't have time to monitor company policies, and the only reason I do it in gaming is because I do a podcast. If I wasn't doing this podcast, I probably wouldn't be paying as much attention. I shouldn't say that. I might, because I'm very interested.
They don't impact you as a consumer. You impact them as a consumer.
Well,
you choose not to buy something.
Thank you. Well, that's been my biggest point of contention too. Like, people forget that it's a free market. You ultimately have. When I hear anti-consumer,
why would you look at what? Right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was saying, when I hear anti-consumer, I'm like, you guys don't know what that means, right? Like, that's not. No. Like, it's the most abused word. You still have a choice as a consumer. And look, I understand what that Microsoft's doubling down on gaming, but guess what? It's 2022, and right now I'm getting game content on other platforms that Microsoft's not providing me as a consumer. And so I'm going to exercise my consumer choice and go game elsewhere until they deliver whatever it is they deliver. And even then, I still have a choice to make. Is it, if they whatever they deliver at that point, whether it's 2-3 years down the road, if it doesn't appeal to me, I'm not going to consume it. If it does, great, good for them. But I'm not going to pat them on the back. I'm going to pat myself on the back. because I'm enjoying whatever content it is they put out.
What I'm waiting for is a Horizon Forbidden West level experience. And I'm not talking about, we can get into the subjective nature of gameplay, right? Objectively, though, from a technical standpoint, that game isn't ridiculous, right? I'm waiting for something better than that, developed for a subscription service, dropping day and date for $15 a month in Game Pass. That's what I'm waiting for. I want it to happen. If it happens, I am a fucking moron. I'm completely wrong in everything that I said. If it doesn't happen, then the experiences that I like are being degraded because of subscription services and live service. That's as simple as that. And that's a me problem. That's what I'm looking at when it comes to Microsoft and what they're doing. And it could happen with PlayStation 2, but it hasn't yet. That's what I'm waiting for when it comes to Game Pass. Maybe Hellblade 2 is that. And I'll say, you know what? They did it. I was wrong. $15 a month. Here you go. It'll probably be $30 a month by then, right? But they did it.
GKNO saying there's no degradation on content we see today. I think what Worry and I are referring to is more specifically Halo and just our experiences with Halo, and kind of giving
Halo has been degraded
and giving you our giving you
quality
our
is much less.
Yeah, giving you our perspective of Halo. Like if you remember Halo 20 years ago, like there was no question that Halo was going to be there was a Metacritic 20 years ago,
right.
But Halo was going to be like a 95 meta. It was going to be in the Game of the Year conversation. It was you knew what to. But
the
this
reason Xbox exists.
Yeah, but this right here,
literally the reason.
But this, what I'm seeing, like, and I've always used the example. Imagine if Nintendo, if Mario came out and it got delayed a year, it was in shambles.
You'd have people in the comment section saying, "Well, there's no degradation. It hasn't been degraded. It hasn't been degraded at all." And you have to deal with that nonsense. Obviously, it has.
Yeah.
I don't understand the emotional attachment to these brands to the point where you can't just have a discussion about content and how bad it is.
Well, no, I mean that's part of my frustration. Worries that there's more emotion than there is sitting back, having discourse.
Am I a fool?
Oh
At
my
least
God.
my friends think so. Sarah.
That's such a good song, by the way.
That was Lisa, right? Cult Jam?
That was Lisa and Cult Jam.
Yes.
But yeah, that's my that's kind of my pet peeve right now. Like, no one wants to have good discourse. It's all emotionally charged, based on conjecture. There's that word, as opposed to saying, hey, you know what, 343 I missed a mark, or hey, you know what, yeah, I don't agree, but here's what I liked about the game. Like, you and I agree to some extent in Halo Infinite, but I said multiplayer saved the game for me, at least, and you're on the other side. But that's the kind of discourse people need to have.
Has it though? Has it saved? I'm not a multiplayer person, but everything I see from people who look into multiplayer are saying that the numbers are terrible.
Well, okay, yeah. So I
don't know. I don't know.
So if you're looking at the if you're discussing active players, it's not doing well at all. And if you would have ever said to me, again,
is that the gauge for the success of a multiplayer game? Correct.
Absolutely, it is. It's not a successful multiplayer game, and it's not a successful Halo game. Now, again, I know it sold. It charted in NPD. It's sold well. Retail, it did well, which you would expect from a brand name of Halo, but I think the impact that Halo always had was that, once you wrapped up the multiplayer, the campaign, you went to the single player, or not, I'm sorry, you went to the multiplayer, and that's where that game kind of had legs. And right now, it's just, I think it has like 8,000 players on Steam. It's not even the top 10 in games played right now on the Xbox. It is Halo is a shell of itself. This isn't 20 years ago. The multiplayer landscape has changed. We're free to play. I do agree with their decision to make the multiplayer free to play. I think that was smart, especially releasing on the PC where you're up against a lot of free to play shooters. But I will say this: I think the one thing that could really inject some life into Halo Infinite, and what I'm thinking is, some of the biggest free to play multiplayer shooters right now are games like Fortnite, Apex Legends, Warzone, PUBG. I think if it was me running the studio, I would have a battle royale mode for Halo Infinite. I think that could potentially, in my opinion, I think that would inject some life into that player engagement, because one of the things that, I know you were kind of joking with me earlier, worry about, you were like, why do you like Fortnite? It's just that it's such a dynamic experience. They
literally took the build mode out of that.
That's what I play,
mode, right?
That's
and then
that's
they
what
took
I play.
the build mode out, and then all of a sudden it's a better game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I never touched Fortnite. I was like, I'm not playing that. I don't want to build stuff.
Let's take the assault rifle and the God, I can't even remember the name of the fucking what's the name of the Jeep the Chief drives around in Warthog? Let's take a Warthog. Let's take the assault rifle.
You need some Ginkgo biloba, man.
Let's take the Covenant out of Halo, and then everybody's gonna be like, wow, it's so much better. I don't get it. Again, it's a me problem. I don't get this live running around with your friends doing the same feedback loop over and over and over and over again. It's just a me problem. I don't understand it.
That particular you're not part of that addressable market for those types of games, and that's fine.
Absolutely.
And that's fine.
Absolutely.
But that's the thing. Like people need to realize that not all games are going to cater to everyone too. And sometimes we have these conversations. I see in the live chat, like, what do you mean? Like that game is, like people get upset, and it's like, understand that what you find value in or what you enjoy playing isn't what somebody else might want to enjoy playing. And what's really great about the industry the way it is now, I think, Worry, and you remember years ago, I feel like we have more options today in terms of different types of games, the way we have different entry points into the gaming industry that we didn't have before. We have free-to-play games, live service games. We also have smaller, AA indie games. We have narrative-driven games. I feel like there's just so much variety right now. But unfortunately, I think everyone's hyper-focused on what company A is doing, what company B is doing, what I like versus what you.
You should just stop doing these discussions and start doing super chat driven Xbox is the best box podcasts.
Dude, if I did that, my YouTube channel, I'd be rich.
You'd be rich.
No, seriously. Like look, when I started this channel, B Money told me,
what's rich? Come on.
I know, but I wouldn't be like billionaire rich, but I mean, I would, I'd have like 100,000 subs. I'd be having, people.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have more respect for people who will tell you behind the scenes, yeah, I'm doing this to get people riled up, because I know that emotion equals money when it comes to this console war nonsense. I have more respect for that. What I don't have respect for are these 40 and 50-year-old men who are doing it and pretending like they believe this stuff that they're telling people. That's what I have a problem with, because when I talk about degrading content I like,
it leads to a lot of
misinformation.
misinformation,
the entire industry. Man. It's degrading the entire hobby of gaming. And again, it's an old person problem, because Twitter didn't exist, social media didn't exist. You'd have to get in line at a Funko Land or a GameStop, wait in line and talk to the person in front of you about the stuff that was happening. It's much different now.
It's a mob mentality, man. It really is. It's a mob mentality. They're inciting the mob.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I mean, it's crazy, but it's how it is. Nothing I can do about it, right? I mean, that's why I have 400 subscribers and somebody else has 400,000 subscribers. Just the way it is.
Yeah, and then we have these weirdos in the live chat right now. I'm seeing I just removed. It's like, dude,
weirdos.
Yeah, weirdos. Yeah. But yeah. So, Worry. Look, man. First of all, thanks for joining, man. I'd love to talk to you more, but I do have to wrap up this BRAP rant. But I don't know what your schedule is, man. We definitely need to get you back on. I'm trying to do more BRAP rants on the weekends. I don't know if you're around during the weekends, but
my schedule's
look, man. Yeah, no, I know, but look, we would definitely like to have you back on to chat some video games, man.
When I can, I will.
Yeah, and you got to come back on Crossfire, man. I think Mooch misses you.
What was another Lisa in the Cult Jam song besides Lost in Emotion? I'm trying to remember.
Oh, I don't know, man.
There was another big hit. Damn it.
I don't know, but everywhere I go now, everywhere I go now, by the way, and ever since I'm watching Stranger Things season 4 and listening to Kate Bush's "Running Up the Hill," that song, I literally can't stop listening to it. And everywhere I go now, it's playing. I was at the dentist today. I went to the dentist today for a cleaning. I'm laying there in the chair, And I hear the song come on. I'm like, wow. I was at happy hour with my buddy the other day. They had somebody playing live music. Sure enough, he plays that song. I don't know, man. 80s music rules.
Remember, I wonder if I take you home, will you still be in love, baby? Oh, well, I need you tonight. Oh
my God. 80s music.
I got to go listen to 80s. Yeah, it's great.
Oh, I love 80s music. I love it. It's great, man.
Great time to be a gamer too, wasn't it?
Oh, it was amazing. I mean, like, you know, like we never got to these like crazy conversations, you know?
No.
Yeah, I mean, there was
around.
There was some console warring, but it was never like, oh my God, you know? It's like, it wasn't like that.
Like Sega's got more money than Nintendo and they just took stock up in Indonesia.
It wasn't like that. You have people that are making commentary about things they don't understand. We never did those things. We never did that.
Mm-hmm.
It's
a lost cause. It's over.
Yeah. You know, have you ever seen that movie Idiocracy?
I did see that. It was a really good movie, actually.
Yeah, I loved it, but that's where we're heading.
Oh, we're not heading there. We're there. We've arrived. There's no heading there. The car has stopped. Everybody's got out. We're there.
Yeah. We got Forte. What's up, Forte? We're about to wrap up, man.
I just parachuted in, you know, to the conversation. You know, shout out to Fortnite.
Are you playing Fortnite today, Forte?
Probably not. I got the show tonight, and I'm working. So.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Hey, you're not getting any more of those Firefly editions, are you? I know.
I think so.
Yeah, I know Sony's doing a midnight, I think, special release.
It's
tonight,
available at 12:01 digitally. I know that.
Yeah, but I think they're doing another physical release or something. I think.
Oh, they are.
I think so.
That's nice. That's nicer though. You know, garner up a little bit more buzz. Get some people to spend $100 again. You know, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So.
Why everybody jumping off the bridge today, BRAP?
Oh, because of Halo Infinite?
Well, who cares about that?
Oh, come on. Look, I really do hope that, and again, I said this.
Nobody cares about Halo. Come on.
Nobody cares about Halo, bro.
I care about Halo. I said this on Twitter.
Why?
I said, because
Why do you care about something that doesn't care about you?
Because I'm a fan of it. Oh, you know what?
I'm a fan of it too. I'm an amazing fan of it.
If Microsoft doesn't care about it, why should you care about it, right?
Exactly.
Fair enough. Okay.
Well, exactly.
I concede my point.
The words right out of my mouth.
Fair enough. Okay.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
I don't know, man. Jumping off of bridges.
Yeah,
because of it. I'm like,
Yeah, you know what? I just, because I enjoy the multiplayer, I really hope that we get more content.
I do too.
Yeah. But until then, you know what? I'm having a blast playing Fortnite. So
guess what? That game doesn't exist until they get a handle on their content drop. I don't disagree. That game does not exist until that happens.
I don't disagree.
Because if you keep talking about it, and that's the biggest thing the biggest problem I have with them. It's like, let that thing just simmer. We don't have to, like, at this point, I don't care about having weekly and bi-weekly updates about that game. You're not telling me the things that I want to know about it yet to make me want to play the game. Like, yeah, okay, Forge is coming, but I was never a huge Forge person. I think it's going to be great for the people that are into Forge, but the mass majority of the people that play that game don't care about that. So wait until you got something of substance where the majority of your player base is going to be like, oh, that's what's up. Okay, let's get back into Halo. But until that happens, I don't want to hear from them about that.
Yeah, that's fair. I completely get that perspective, Forte. I get it, man. It's like, if you're not going to give me what I want, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You're just speaking to a wall at this point.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Man, I mean,
you should try getting married then. Jeez.
Right. At least at that point, I decided. At least I decided to marry you, and then I have to listen to you at that point.
You're not giving me what I want, but I have to live with it.
But I have to live with it because I signed a piece of paper and put a ring on.
Oh my God, you guys are. Oh my goodness. All right. Well,
hey, listen, man. That's just how it is. And then this Activision thing is whatever.
I still think the deal goes through. I don't think
the deal's gonna go.
Yeah.
Through.
I wouldn't be surprised if there were some modifications to it, but I think it goes through.
The only modification to that thing is the fact that Microsoft got to consistently, for the rest of their life, say that Call of Duty is going to be the same everywhere. That's the only thing that's going to be different. They're going to say, listen, DLC everywhere. Game's going to be the same. We're not going to gift the PS5 or the PS6 or the PS7 version. We're going to give you the same experience that you're going to get on the Xbox and on PC. The only difference probably is going to be the fact that you can get it for a lot cheaper on Xbox if you got Game Pass. That's literally the only difference between the two systems.
That's a great point, yeah. And I'll be playing it on PC Game Pass. I'm actually going to pre-order the Vault. Is it the Vault edition? That's $100.
Yeah, that's the edition.
Yeah,
that's the edition. I'm getting the Vault edition.
Gives you access to the campaign 2 weeks early. I'm not sure if I'm going to get it on PlayStation 5 or PC. I'm leaning to. I wanted to get a PlayStation 5 because it's just easier to stream to YouTube via PlayStation
what game
5.
Is this you're talking about?
Call of Duty.
The Vault edition, yeah.
Yeah, the Vault edition. Yeah, it's $100. That gives you.
Get it on. You know why? Get it on PlayStation because you're going to end up getting it on Xbox and Game Pass at some point anyway.
That's true. I can always go back and play it later on PC.
Yeah. So get it.
I don't know though, man. It's like that. Then slow mo starts getting in my ear, man. Fortnite. You don't know. Slow mo is always making fun of me when I'm playing Fortnite on anything other than PC.
Well, I'm with him because I stopped playing Fortnite on console. It's like,
and Fortnite Slow-Mo's got that little laugh, like, you know what I'm talking about? That little.
Well, listen, Slow-Mo's not about to be the dictator where I play my games at, but certain games make sense in certain places, and Fortnite is one of those games that I like to. It's like I'm already sitting at my PC, so I might as well play it there. So it just depends on how you play your games, honestly.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I hear you. But all right, well, gentlemen, Worry, hey, man, it's always great catching up with you, Worry. For those who don't know, Worry and I go back a long time, 8 years. Is that right?
That sounded really fucking creepy for a minute.
Oh my God.
They go back to the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, we go way back.
We Worry and I actually, I got in the podcast
NFL
business
Fever beta tester, right? NFL Fever beta tester.
Yeah, it was an Xbox Live beta tester. Yeah,
I was there. I was there.
Yeah, but
that game's trash.
Worry and I both started our podcasting careers. I don't know if you started, but I did on a certain podcast many years ago. I say careers because I don't. Yeah.
Oh yes, I know what you're referring to. Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah,
so
I know,
but
Forte,
yeah. But Forte, man, also a pleasure, man. Thanks for parachuting, man. Appreciate you as always. And Warrior, hey, we gotta get you back on, man. It's like I said, it's always great talking about video games with you, man. So definitely gotta get you on sooner than later.
All
So on that note, everyone, I will be starting the BRAP podcast and going to be monetize the hell out of it, and then I'll be doing the pony podcast.
You should have like a thumbnail that says,
"Is there a subscription to this?"
Sony hates families. Right. Sony hates families. Something like
That's good.
Is there going to be a subscription model to this?
Yeah.
Yes, there is. Yes, I'm going to Patreon the whole thing. Have T-shirts, mugs, G-strings,
and the quality of its content will never decrease.
Don't lie to me, Brad. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that Discord invite with the OnlyFans on it.
I'm gonna do an OnlyFans where I lay naked behind consoles.
Have that. Well, the Xbox does stand tall enough, so
yeah, it's not tall enough for me though.
He doesn't. He doesn't need a tall console. He's good.
Oh, come on, Worry.
And on that note, we are out of here.
He's like the Game Boy Micro. He's good.
The Game Boy Micro.
Oh, that's savage. Oh, no, right? All right, we gotta go. I know where this is going.
Can't even get his man a DSi.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. All right, everyone. Have a great.
Maybe he only needs the stylus. The stylus will probably do him the most.
Oh my God!
The stylus.
All right, we gotta go. Everyone,
who wants to use their finger?
All right, everyone. Have a great.
I know you gotta go.
Have a great rest of the week. Great weekend. I may do the BRAP rant about Halo. Talk a little more this weekend. I don't know. We'll see. But have a great weekend, everyone. Or great rest of the week. We'll catch you later.
Take care, guys.
Later, guys.